Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Arden Chambers in London. I'm looking at a trio of books today which came to us in the summer of 2017 from the Legal Action Group and Arden Chambers in central London. This one is the Manual of Housing Law. I've reviewed the other two, in fact I've reviewed all three together, but I'm doing separate reviews. The other books are Quiet Enjoyment and Homelessness and Allocations, but the one I'm looking at the moment is Manual of Housing Law, written by Andrew Arden, Queen's Counsel, and Andrew Dymond. It's available as a printed edition and also as an ebook, and you can get the information because it's updated on the lag.org.uk/ebooks website. This is an important book again. It's because it's a manual. It's now in a 10th edition. It's an important contribution to where we are today in a difficult area, an area of law where a lot of people are underrepresented. Now, Elizabeth and I have given a title for our book review, a fine new 10th edition of this pivotal manual at an important time for housing law. Let's just have a look at the book. It's got a purplish cover. There's the front of it. There's the spine. And then there's the back. You probably can't see that too well. It's not the easiest print. But there we go. You can see the book itself. It's a heavy book. Runs to 580 pages. The index at the back is very much the house style of lag. And that is, it is the paragraph numbering where you find things. The index is a detailed index. You can see the index there. You can see a little bit of paragraph numbering there. But we'll go to the front. The front of the book, there is the front page. There's the detail about the authors and very much the style, as I say, house style of lag. There's the information about the book. It's been around a long time. First edition 1978. Then the preface is a long preface by Andrew Arden, and what he's done is he's talking about the three books that they have published with a common predominantly stated as at the 30th of April 2017, and these have been available since the summer. Then you've got the contents section. Then you've got after that cases, and a lot of cases, of course, lots of lovely cases. Statutes, very helpful if you've got a particular statute you're looking for, a section in it. Then you've got the statutory instruments. There's a lot of stuff right at the front to cover everything. I did find there's also a little bit on European legislation, not very much, but just a little bit. Then you've got the abbreviations, very helpful abbreviations, because it's easy to get a bit confused with the myriad of different abbreviations which you all tend to use. So it's very useful to have this to hand. Then the structure you can see is the chapter heading. Then you've got a short index for what is in each chapter, and then it goes into the actual book itself. Introduction, you've got the paragraph numbering, which you can probably see at the side. It's a bit sort of hidden away, but the paragraph numbering is down there, and you've got footnotes. In fact, not very many footnotes in this. The footnotes are probably, if they're anywhere, they're going to be incorporated actually in the body copy of the work itself, which actually in some ways I do find that a little bit easier. The reason I say that is simply because when you're reading through stuff, it can be a bit of a problem if you've got a lot of footnoting. So what they've decided to do here is incorporate it into the body text. But you do have a nice introduction to each of the chapters, and you should be able to find things very easily. So what do we say about this? As I say, it's a trio of books which have come to us from the Legal Action Group. This one is the Manual of Housing Law, and this is what we say. We welcome the new edition, naturally. It's the 10th edition of what is an excellent collaboration between the Legal Action Group and Arden Chambers in central London, because they provide us as practitioners with some of the best resources that are currently available on the legal market. They've certainly made my life easier in the 20 odd years I've been practicing. I certainly found that very helpful in pupillage, and I found it very helpful in the early years of practice, and I know my colleagues have as well. But these books are normally available in the courts, so you will see them when you go into a courtroom, and you will know that the judges know them, so it's useful for you to have some information and knowledge yourself of what's actually available. Now, the new 10th edition of the manual remains one of the best short books, I think, in the area of welfare law we're covering, since the first edition appeared in 1978 and it was then published by Sweet and Maxwell. The first edition of what is now called the Manual of Housing Law, as I say, came in 1987 and it had the title Housing, Security and Rent Control. It's listed actually in the sort of technical bit of the front of the book. But Housing, Security and Rent Control. So you see, it's really changed the flavour because the information about housing law has grown and developed in recent years, and I'm very grateful that we've got these books because there was very little available. And I'm talking of 30 years ago. I mean, I was on a housing committee as an elected member for some years, and we really didn't have a lot of information in those days. And when I first started reading law, which was a long time ago, in the early 70s, in fact 1970 itself, housing law was actually seen in slightly different way as part of planning law and part of the law of real property, and it didn't really have its own substantive law area. That has all changed because what we've now got with the new edition today, 2017, comes to us from Arden and Dymond, and it represents one of the foremost publications of LAG at a time of, I think, important change, where much more regard is being given to welfare law and to housing law in its own right. And that really brings me to what I've been saying earlier, and that is that from the second edition onwards, when it became what we now know as the manual today, it was described then as the singular text which brought together housing law as a subject for practitioners starting out in housing law, non-specialist practitioners who need ready access to the subject, lay advisors and students both of housing studies and of law, as well as officers of local authorities and housing associations. Now you can see that's a wide variety of people, but it's an important area because there is not that much housing stock available. So you've got quite a lot of pressure within the housing market at the moment. And that's why this book is so helpful, because it's fortunate that we have this as a book of great assistance to us when we're seeing clients, because you can't expect to know everything. And if you do have a requirement, you can check things up quite quickly here. And also, I think, has the durability for a wider range of unrepresented parties, bearing in mind it and the other books, the trio of books in this series at the moment. They're easy to read and to follow because of their structure. That's down really to the house style of LAG and to the knowledge and experience given to us by Arden Chambers members. So what the authors and the publishers have done is they've designed the manual to enable the reader both to understand housing law as a whole and to apply it. And they cover a wide area of activity, whether it concerns the problems of individuals or the policies and practices of landlords and local authorities. And it's been a central message of the book since the first appearance of it that housing law is a subject not to be studied in the abstract, but to be applied. And that comes directly from the authors, who then go on to say it's also an invaluable reference guide as a manual for us as busy practitioners who need a quick answer or a source of reference at their fingertips. And that's what you've got, and that's what you'd get in court. Because whilst they've got them, I know that the judges they may well have a short adjournment and go out, but they'll have a check if necessary so that they feel confident enough to make a decision, hopefully. But it's got to be the right decision. So you've got to be on top of your game. You need to have a copy of this book as well with you. Of course, the book brings with it a history and wealth of experience, because Arden's been writing about housing law for over 40 years. And he's recognised as being at the forefront of the development of housing law, contributing to and helping to shape the subject through practice in leading housing cases up to the highest courts in the country over the same period. And we thank him for giving us his advice. He's variously been described as the preeminent expert on and godfather of the subject, if those terms are not too strong, and I'm sure he would not be too unhappy, at least I hope he isn't, of being referred to in those terms. But the point is that we're getting the experience which we need, because we live in a complex world and there's more and more case law, more and more statutory involvement. So I do think this work is very helpful. Dymond, of course, who's also a founding member of Arden, is a well-known leading expert on housing law too. Together they've provided us with the most authoritative introduction to this area of law, taking the reader through the complex landscape in what is a clear and accessible style, very much the hallmark of the LAG publications. Thank you again to LAG, you make our lives a lot easier. The edition's up to date. It also includes the Housing and Planning Act 2016 and the Homelessness Reduction Act 2017, and of course it's got all the recent case law. Let me conclude by saying this. The manual remains an invaluable guide to the law in England and Wales for lawyers, advisors and students of housing law. So anybody who masters this book has mastered housing law in England and in Wales itself. And I don't say that lightly, because I think this is effectively a short but a very, very good guide as to where we are today with the law. We cannot put it better ourselves, and you should have a copy of this as part of your law library. And the law is predominantly stated as at the 30th of April 2017. Quick look at it, purple cover, there we go. Quick look again just to refresh the memory. There's the spine and then there's the back. Hopefully the lighting's not too bad, so you can see that, what is actually written there. You can read that online anyway. Just opening it in the middle, rent and other charges. Here we go, service charges. Now there's specialist books on service charges. I get a lot of questions on that from clients. You see the paragraph numbering. You see, as I said, there isn't any footnoting here because it's all incorporated into the body of the text. But what you've got is, you've got questions here about the tenancy agreements. This is the service charges, proportionality, reasonableness, so forth, and a lot of very practical information, and information on housing benefits, for instance. As I say, taking this book with Quiet Enjoyment and Homelessness, the three homelessness allocations, these three books are a very useful addition. They're not expensive either, but they're something you should have in your library. And if this video at least helps people understand a little bit more about the predicament they may be in, or those who are advising, whether it's a CIB advisor or someone who's just advising generally rather than a specialist, I hope that this will give some help and succour to people who've got a real problem on their hands. Thank you very much to everybody concerned for producing this book and the other ones in the series. Bye-bye.